Which is Bill Carne. Good morning, Bill.
Morning, Tom. How are you? You're bright and breezy. I like your music this morning. Great.
Oh yes, we like this. Feel Good Friday, Bill. So feel good tunes, and I know that you've got an ace up your sleeve as well to keep that to keep the feel good going as well. But before we get there, it's been another week of sport in Pembrokeshire, Bill.
Yeah, not so much this week. I mean, the indoor cricket is finished. I don't know. Patrick Hannon must be having withdrawal symptoms lately. Yeah, there's been plenty going on, and there's good football on this week. There's a couple of, there's five, I think, rugby matches. There's great clubs that are trying to catch up on the postponed games, which is a good thing to do. Start early, watch Wales after that. So there's a fair bit going on, and It's nice to see other sports doing well. I mentioned in a minute now, Fishguard and good at hockey. They're really on the up. It's great to see, isn't it? Sport for all.
Yeah, sport for all. And in fact, you might have missed this golden nugget of information, Bill, but Division 5 on last Saturday was graced by a certain individual in the football.
Was it?
Oh, it was.
Oh, not well done.
I was there, left back for Broadhaven Seconds in Division 5. It was an experience.
And how did it get on?
Well, we went 3-1 down, Bill, but we ended up beating Lorraine 5-3. It was all right.
Great. Good. And how many goals did you score? Go raiding up the wing?
Alas, I got there. The team talk was keep it tight, keep it compact, don't go running away. So I was very much a defender for the match.
Well done. It's nice.
Thank you very much.
And everybody can. You played a lot of sport, but everyone can find something in sport. I really believe that.
We've talked about this before. I completely agree with you. There's something for everyone in sport. And, well, in fact, let's stick with the football, shall we? Haverfordwest County, Bill, they've secured their place in the seventh place in the top of Phase 2. But they've got, we were just saying off air, there's no easy game, even though it's the bottom of the division, is there?
No, and if you like, Haverfordwest would finish up top of the second division, the bottom division, call it what you like, Phase 2. But they have done well to do that. But there's no easy games. If supporters think, "Oh, they've done well, they can sit back now," that's not on. And for example, this weekend they travelled to Carnarvon to take on Carnarvon Town, who recently had very good history in the competition and got into Europe as well. And they are 8th. They won below Haverfordwest County, and they know mugs. It's so tough to predict. Anyone think that they walkovers. I mean, the two games, Haverfordwest played against Carnarvon at the Oggy Bridge Meadow Stadium, first game of the season, early in August, and won 1-0, great start of the season. And then in September, they lost 2-1 in Carnarvon. And I think that reflects the quality and the standards between the two teams. Either side could win. I bumped into Tony Pennock, as you know, last week, and had a chat to him, and he's aware of it. He knows. Relatively small squad. It's been boosted now, so that's nice to see. And on the day, they're capable of beating anyone, just as anyone is capable of beating them. It's going to be a tough game. There's a supporters bus going up. The support at Haverfordwest has increased immensely. Mainly, I'm glad to say, with youngsters, it's packed. Now, when you do that oggy now, you'll be surprised at the volume of noise that comes out from that. And you started that, you played there?
We do like going down there and entertaining the crowd there with some loud music. It does, personally, I feel it enhances the experience, and it's great. I remember the first time we did the Oggy chant, it didn't get much, but it is getting louder and louder. It's great to see hundreds of people down there on a home fixture.
And I think it's great for the players to hear it. It really is a boost. They know they're at home when you guys get going there. You all do a good job there. So it's fabulous.
No, it's great. And of course, we had Tony. You caught up with Tony on the sports show on Monday evening. Monday just gone. You can catch up with that. We also had Rob, the chairman, join us after 8 o'clock. He was live on the show as well, with probably the most express. Usually he's been a little bit coy about where he wanted to finish. He's like, no, we want Europe. It's the most overt I've heard him say it. And he's put plans in place. And you've met the new signing, I'm going to call here, the new chief exec. Do you want to give us just a very brief overview as to what we can expect?
Yeah, her name is Georgina Nicholas. She's got a great sporting pedigree. I know she played a lot of sport herself. Her mum, Alison, is one of the best-known aerobics tutors in the county for the last 30 years. A larger-than-life character, Alison, from Pembrokeshire. Her dad, Bryn, was a top cricket man in Pembrokeshire Cricket Club. Her uncle, Merrick, was a very, very good cricketer who sadly retired from teaching as a head teacher on a Friday and passed away on a Tuesday, playing cricket, something he loved. But, she is from a family with a great sports pedigree. I think her main sport was netball, and I'm not surprised because she's a tall lady and a very imposing lady, very confident. She's had 10 years, 20 years in London, 10 years with Arsenal on the commercial side. So she knows her commercial onions, there's no doubt about that. And I met her down at the Bridge Meadow. She was already looking at things that needed to be updated and saying, yeah, go ahead and do that. So it's nice to see someone who's going to be a resident there. She's come back to live in Pembrokeshire, and she will have an influence there, I'm sure.
Oh, fantastic. I'm excited to see. I doubt that it will be anything that's major, but it's those small changes that are going to add up and hopefully make for an even better match day experience, and it'll improve the club in general. So I'm excited for that. To grassroots then, in the football, we'll stick with football for now, and then we'll switch over to rugby because there's a bit of rugby that needs breaking down, and to see where we go on the weekend. But with there's some football on, isn't there? We've got Division 1 football and we've got the Senior Cup, Bill.
Well, football continues unabated. That has no influence to the rugby. The rugby is influenced by the WR decisions. But yeah, there's the quarterfinals of the Senior Cup. And they're a tough set of fixtures, Tom, because every side knows they're one step away from an appearance in the semi-finals under floodlights at the Bridge Meadow. And that is a great experience to play on that pitch under lights with a big crowd cheering on. It's fantastic, And the big game this weekend has to be Goodwick United versus Carew, top versus fourth. And, they're very competitive, the pair of them. The last time I saw them play in the Cup was in a quarter-final, and Carew won 1-0 at Goodwick. Carew held the edge, breakaway goal, and Carew held it. It wasn't my favourite game I've ever watched, if I'm honest.
No, but you mentioned this.
I'm hoping both clubs will rise to the occasion and serve up something that befits the Senior Cup, because they're both very, very good sides. And, it's great to see. I mean, I saw a little tweet from Carew, I think last week or the week before, that said every one of their players lives within 5 minutes of their recreation ground where they play, or 5 miles away. And that's lovely to see. They're a club that sticks together. They're the same in the cricket. So that's going to be a battle royal. You pick your winner out of that. Merlin's Bridge then, a second, and one of the favourites to do well. They're playing Kilgetty were 8th. Kilgetty got a great reputation, if you remember. They were in the last time when they got to the final. Then,
Yeah.
And then there's a local derby, Monkton Swifts against Penna Robins, the Battle of the Birds. And there's always been a real rivalry. I played for Penna Robins, the Ernie Morgan Cup against the Swifts on a Boxing Day was a highlight of the season. The crowds at Monkton Lane were packed. But in those days, Monkton was so much stronger than Penna. That's not quite the same now, although the Robins are not doing brilliantly. Chrissy Lloyd is battling hard with them there. You'd have to go for the Swifts at home with that. And then the Minnows quarter-final, if I can call it that. Tenby are now in Division 2, but a 5th are playing Camrose, who are in Division 3 and a 4th there. So it means that one non-First Division side will get into the semi-finals. And, that's how it should be. There have been sides. Prendergast Villa got to the final one year. I remember Solver got to the final years ago under Nobby Howells. So there's 4 top games there. I suppose one club that will look at it with a little bit of regret is Aiken United, because they're playing against St Clair's, who are bottom. Aiken are 4th in the First Division. They're playing a league game at the Hobbs. Aiken withdrew from the Senior Cup. You can't argue with that. They, had these visions of playing in these top competitions, and they carried the Pembrokeshire flag, with great elan, great style. So Aiken will look at that and think, well, if only that the other sides would be glad to see him out, because they're a heck of a side. And they're a fantastic set of players there. And I've said before, I do hope they try to enter the West Wales Premier, because, by God, are they good enough? And Goodwick and Carew in that. So in the other games in that, Fishguard Sports were 7th at home to Neyland, who were 9th. That should be a bit of a battle at Tregroyce. Both sides want the points. Neyland certainly want them to get out of the bottom 4. And in the last game, St Ishmael's, who were 11th, are playing Derby Road, who were 6th. Tisha had a rough time, but they did well in the last game, caused a bit of a surprise. 2-2 with Merlin's Bridge. So all to play for in those as well. So there's plenty of football in every division, so people can look on the Pembrokeshire League site or on Pure West or Pembrokeshire Sport and see, what's going on there. Lots of football.
Yeah, there was
Will
plenty
anyone-
of football.
Will anyone be watching those skinny legs under Tom Dyer playing this weekend?
Alas, I'm unavailable this weekend, but if I've been told that if I'm free, let them know. So I couldn't have done all that badly.
Well done, good.
Thank you very much. And then let's move on from that football. I just going back, my pick of that game of the Senior Cup, it has to be Tenby versus Camrose. It's that magic of the cup, the phrase that we often hear associated with cup games. I think it's fantastic that there's going to be representatives from a lower division. So either one of them, to the best of luck with them. Good morning to Helen and to Delton, who are watching this on Facebook and YouTube as well. And you mentioned that rugby is impacted by the WRU. However, there is some rugby taking place.
Yeah, well, last week there was none really because Wales were playing at home. They're playing away in Scotland. We all know how tough that's going to be. That's going to be a real challenge for Warren and his boys. But there is a little bit of rugby. I think what clubs are doing is catching up on games that were postponed earlier on. And, Narberth have got a belter there. Toughest game of the year, undoubtedly. They're travelling to Pontypool Park. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's an amazing venue, especially in autumn when the leaves are changing on the trees. This time of year, that's going to be a slog for Narberth, who are fifth. And they're playing really well. They're a very good side now. The Pontypool have played won 11, and that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Wow.
In that division. But that's a 1:30 start, which means that people can travel, watch the game, go into the pub, the club, and watch the game then, because that didn't start at 4:45. It's good. It's good thinking by the clubs. Get games played if they can early. There's two tough games in Division 1 West. Pembroke, who are 12th, at home to Vellinvole, who are 5th. And that's going to be a tough tussle for the boys at Crickmaran. We know they're battling them win a game. But the spirit is good and the setup is good for the future there. So they've got to be patient this year and just aim to stay together, get the support as much as they can behind them, because there's a great crowd of supporters there at Crickmaran. And that starts at 2 o'clock. And Whitland, that's 12th versus 5th. Whitland are 11th and they're playing, I'll have to check who they're playing, Gowerton.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And they're 6th, and that's a 1 o'clock start.
Oh, great. So they're taking the initiative and making sure that players can play the game and enjoy the rugby afterwards. I like that.
Well, that's right. Whitland, are a hard team, tough supporters. I suspect what they're doing then. I'm saying this tongue-in-cheek before I get slated by Whitland. Their boys are like to play hard and drink hard, so they're probably thinking if they start at 1 o'clock and get a few points down in there, people against that. And I'm not against that with Whitland. They're a great. I tell you what, it's a club that is absolutely packed with characters. They are from Paul.
I can imagine.
Up at the top there to Tony Bowen, who's one of my heroes in local rugby. They're a side and a half. And then in Division 3 West, Pembroke Quins, who are 10th, are at home at BS School to Larne, who are 5th. I might go and watch a bit of that. I haven't seen the Larnies play this year. And I've got some good old pals I used to teach with in Larne. That's a 2 o'clock start. And slightly outside our area, but I do cover Cardigan because they've been in Pembrokeshire for years. Lampeter were 3rd, play Cardigan were 7th. That's a 2 o'clock start as well. And Lampeter are a good side. They're 3rd. I think them or perhaps St Clair's could win that division. They're very good teams, So there's a little bit of rugby, and it's nice to see it happening. I applaud the clubs, and perhaps other clubs need to think as well. Could I have got a game in this weekend?
Yeah, no, there are options, which is nice to see. So a little bit of rugby if you're heading out and about, plenty of football. And you mentioned this when we first brought the show up, is that hockey's on the up and up. And before we talk about Fishguard and Gaelic hockey, the Wales international team made up of semi-professionals, amateurs, if you will, qualifying for, was it the World Cup fairly recently? And but putting it like scoring goals, not just going there to make numbers. Did they win any? I can't remember, but they were scoring and they were competitive, which is the main thing.
I think in the locality, I'd be a liar if I said it was throbbing with vitality in the area. The clubs are starting to get their acts together. I know Fishguard and Goodwick would say, men and women, there's a great oil. We want their website. You can see the reports of the games, smashing pictures, lively bunch, obviously. But they're still looking for players. Yeah. And every club needs to have junior teams. And let's hope some new clubs will spring up in time.
Yeah.
But I mean, last weekend, they're having their best season for years, both of them. We've spoken at length to Angela Miles about disability sport, but she's been a driving force behind that. She told me she stepped back this year and it's the best thing she's done because others have come to the fore and there's a revitalisation, which is nice. Last weekend, the men's team beat the Gwent Development team 3-2. Isaac Davis, that's his second goal in consecutive games. And then Morgan Boston Williams had his first for the club, and Lloyd Jones scored on his debut, so that's great. And the ladies drew the top of the table with Llanybother and team captain Caris James. I was talking to her in the week. Well done, Caris, central midfielder, and she scored the goal. So there's plenty going on.
That's fantastic. I'm trying to think. I think last year sometime we had representatives of Milford Hockey Club on the club, and they're talking about all the different divisions they've got. They're doing really well. Well, they
have to travel, but they've got people there who are good in a lot of sports.
Yes.
And if you look at those, they are totally committed. Charlotte Davis is one of my favourites there. Charlie, I used to teach her, and she's been there for many years. Her mum the same. And it's a family club, and it thrives on bringing youngsters through. And that's what we need, is to get more crafts played in schools and more towns saying we'll have, villages saying we'll have a bash at it,
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So these clubs do exist. They are in Pembrokeshire. They are all over Pembrokeshire. It's just a case of finding them and seeing what evening and when they play and see if it fits into your lifestyle. So go and have a look. Pembrokeshiresport.co.uk is a great avenue, but also the Sport Pembrokeshire website has got an overview of different clubs and what's available as well, isn't there?
Yeah, you can find the names of the club secretaries, captains. They'll all be on Sport Pembrokeshire, and it's great. I mean, the skill levels have improved. When I was a youngster in college, I played a bit of hockey as well as the other sports, just to help out. And we played on what was called red gravel. It was, and it was like hitting a ball through slime. But now they play on these artificial pitches, on the really good quality ones now, and the skill, the pace, but the skill, the use of the stick, the reverse stick when you're on the left, is just amazing. So if you want to break from rugby or football play, or if you just think, well, I used to play a bit of hockey in school, I'll go back, you'll be made very welcome.
Yeah, definitely. Now, but before we sign off, Bill, and we talk about a legend of football, what are your predictions for Scotland v Wales?
Well, I'd like to tell you I was right last week, but I did say to you I thought they'd win. Wales would lose by 5 points.
Yes.
But I did say at the end, if you look back at that, I thought it'd be something like 27.
You did, yeah.
I take no credit out of that. I think the margin could be equally as wide this time, although I hope Wales prove me wrong. I mean, we saw Scotland play England last week. They're a bonny team, aren't they? There's some very good players, very competitive players. It's such a professional game now. I mean, did you see Johnny Sexton's wink last week when he had a head injury and he had a yellow card for somebody, and nice little wink to one of his players? Scotland are a good team, and they're big, powerful pack.
Yeah,
that's what you've got to have to start with. The backs are good, mind.
I know they are straight runners.
Oh, aye. Yeah, someone like Van der Merwe, you don't want to give him too much space; he'll run over you.
As he did, straight through the middle of the park. It was quite incredible to see. So that match kicks off tomorrow afternoon. So so score predictions on a postcard and keep it to yourself. But the Welsh legend, that I wanted to talk about, he's from Narberth. He used to play in football tournaments as a 7-year-old up in Rosebush. Joe Allen has announced his retirement from international football. Bill, what an icon!
A great icon, a lovely gentleman of sport, a smashing guy from a great family. I know we say it about a lot of people, but the gentleman and all that, but he really is, icon is the right word. He served Wales with great distinction, and one of the most modest players I've ever come across at any level, Tom. I mean, I wrote an article about him once. I've written several. I first watched him as a pup. I count Joe as a pal. Dad Steve the same. But he came through, and he was like Simon Davis in Solvo when he played. Something about them, Mark Delaney, and they had something. And Joe wasn't a big guy, and when he was smaller, he was small. But as soon as I saw him as a pup playing in a game. He must have been 11 or 12 then, and you thought, wow, that is incredible for his size, let alone anything else. And he's been a real gentleman. I interviewed him. I wrote an article, and he wanted all the quotes taken out where I'd said, he won't mind me saying that, I hope he doesn't, saying where I'd said, the first time I walked out of the tunnel onto the pitch and we sang in, that was a great moment. He wanted the speech marks taken and that, so I said, I bet he must have felt. Because Joe didn't want, and he showed great kindness to a young member of my family, which I'll never forget. It brings a lump to my throat now, which shows what a lovely, caring person he is. And he's just a top guy. And I think he's made the right decision for him. He's getting on a bit in football terms. He gets injured because he's committed, and I hope he'll serve Swansea for a few years yet and help them develop. Because other players can look at him and follow him. They won't go far wrong in how they are as people and as footballers.
Yeah, he'll make a great coach, and what a person for people to look up to and see that effort and that tenacity that he put into every single game in a Welsh shirt. It very much is the beginning of, well, we all knew it, but it's definitely happening now with Gareth Bale retiring, Joe Allen's now retiring. It's a matter of time before you see Chris Gunter and Wayne Hennessy both declaring, I would hazard a guess at. So it really is a change, but it's a good one for them as individuals, and we wish them the best of luck, and thank you. It's been brilliant. Talking of it's been brilliant, Bill, thank you so much for sharing your insight of a week in Pembrokeshire sport again for us. But it's not all done, because it's Feel Good Friday. So we need to know what song that you've got. Well, in fact, Gina's asking. She's just commented, "Morning, Bill and Tom. Looking forward to your Feel Good Friday song choice today, Bill." So, Bill, what have you gone for today?
Well, can I say first of all, it's nice to see Helen Marie on with us. She's a lovely lady, we both know. And Gina James Jones the same. Gina, I miss you. And I know you want to catch up on a little bit of beauty sleep, which you don't need because you're lovely anyway. But thanks for the message. You're a star. She's a lovely girl.
She is.
Yeah, so a song. Yeah, I always try to get a 60s song with a bit of bounce to wake us up in the morning. And this week, one of my favourite groups from America, the Drifters, Save the Last Dance for Me.
Oh, that's coming up right now. Save the Last Dance for Me. It's 7:30. What is your song request? Let us know now. I'm going to go live on our social media immediately after this. Bill, thank you so much for the Pembrokeshire Sports Update. I'm not here, which means that I'm not sure. We might have a couple of weeks off, Bill, so we'll reflect on the Six Nations in a couple of weeks.
Look forward to it, Tom. You take care. Ta-da.
And you. Take care. Bye. The Drifters on the way here on Pure West Radio.
Feel Good Friday with Pem's